So here's a question. It says, how does the incident in Acts with Ananias and Sapphira fit into the grace message? Well, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is Acts chapter 5, and the people were pooling their money together and having all things common. It was a communal lifestyle. Ananias and Sapphira said that they had sold some property and they brought the whole thing, but they only brought a portion of it. And they had agreed together to lie to the body of believers and, in a sense, take advantage of them. Take advantage of all that they could get from this communal living, but not give and not be totally honest. And when this happened, Peter confronted Ananias about it and found out what he had done, and Ananias fell down dead. And so they picked him up, took him out to bury him, and right as those people who buried Ananias were coming in, Sapphira, his wife, had come in, and Peter walked up to her and says, "Did you sell the land for so much?" And she said, "Yes." And so that showed that she was complicit in this, that they had agreed to do it. And Peter said that the feet of those who've buried your husband will also carry you out and bury you, and she fell down dead. And so some people look at this as the direct judgment of God upon them. I've heard some people say that this was them just finding out that they were caught and fear hit them so much that they died of a heart attack. God didn't do it. And so this poses a problem. First of all, I believe that God did do this because it says that Peter went and pronounced this judgment on Sapphira. In other words, she didn't just get afraid because she was found out and fell down and had a heart attack. Peter pronounced that she was going to die. So I believe that God is the one that did it. Now that raises the question, well, what about the grace of God? Well, there's one of two possibilities. Either Ananias and Sapphira were not true believers, which exempted them from the covenant of God's grace. They were still under the law and therefore were subject to judgment if they were only Christians in name only, but not practicing Christians. Or here's another option, and this is what I believe it is. I believe that a Christian can renounce their faith. This is not something you do over and over and over, like some people believe that you're saved and then you sin and you're lost and you're backslid and you got to pray again and get born again. And so you're saved, lost, saved, lost, saved, lost. I don't believe you can do that. But I believe that one time you can renounce your faith. It's not losing your salvation like you lose your keys or something, but it is a renouncing of your faith. In Hebrews chapter 6, I won't take time to go through it, but there's 5 qualifications basically saying that only a mature Christian can do this. An immature Christian cannot renounce their faith. But if a person is a mature Christian and knew what they were doing, then they could renounce their faith. And once you do that, it says that you're reprobate. You can never come back. There is no repentance from that. And so in that case, they would have been, again, outside of the covenant. They wouldn't have been a part of this covenant, and God would not have violated His promise to never hold their sins against them because they had renounced the covenant. So it has to be one of those two things. Either they were not true believers and therefore weren't a part of the new covenant, they were still under the wrath of God, or if they had been believers, they renounced their faith by tempting God like this, and therefore were outside of the covenant when God judged them. There's a lot more that I could say about that. If you were to turn to Acts chapter 5 in my Life for Today commentary, which is either a hardcover edition or you can go on our website, you can get that free of charge and look it up. It'll list a lot more than what I was able to say right here.